Senate Bill 1533, a bill to amend and reenact section of the code relating to possession of antique firearms, nonviolent felons. Report for the Committee on Militia, Police, Public Safety with an amendment in nature of substitute.
The gentleman from Prince William, Mr. Lingenfelder.
Mr. Speaker, I move the committee substitute.
The question is on adoption of the committee substitute. As many in favor of that motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. The gentleman from Prince William.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the substitute permits nonviolent felons to possess, transport, or carry antique firearms and black powder in a quantity not to exceed 5 pounds if it is intended solely for the use of sporting, recreational, or cultural purposes. The substitute that we just adopted limits the antique firearms that may be possessed, transported, or carried by nonviolent felons to muzzle-loading firearms. Mr. Speaker, I move we pass the bill.
Gentleman from Fairfax, Mr. Simon.
Mr. Speaker, will the gentleman from Prince William resume the floor for the purposes of question?
Gentleman yield.
I yield.
Gentleman yields.
Mr. Speaker, I would ask the gentleman, what is the big problem that we're trying to solve here? Are there lots and lots and lots of felons that are missing out on the opportunity to carry antique firearms?
Mr. Speaker, I'd say the gentleman, he was in committee when I was, and he heard the patron respond to that very question, which he said that he had constituents in his district that were affected by this. There's federal permissibility here, and he's simply trying to bring that to Virginia. So I thank you for bringing up the question you asked in committee.
Speaking to the bill, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, members of the committee, I was in the committee, and I do want to enlighten everybody, I think, as to what the answer was. The answer was there were some folks out there, and the bigger part of the answer that I remember, and the part of the discussion that I remember really clearly was, we wanted these folks to have an opportunity to go out and do something recreational and get out and be real full participants in the community. Because if they weren't out hunting during black powder season, they'd be doing probably cooking meth. And apparently those were the only two options that you had. They were either going to be cooking meth or they were going to be out hunting during black powder season. And I would suggest to the body that giving nonviolent felons the opportunity to more fully participate,
Mr. Speaker,
in their community.
The gentleman from here, Mr. Weber.
Will the gentleman yield for a question?
Will the gentleman yield?
I'll yield.
Gentleman yields.
Mr. Speaker, I would ask the gentleman that outside of Fairfax and outside of Northern Virginia, we have things called Civil War reenactments and things like that, that involve hundreds, thousands of people. Would that not be included as in participating with the community besides cooking meth?
No, I think that would be an excellent use and an excellent reason that somebody might, a nonviolent felon might want to be able to
Further
possess
question,
a black
Mr. Speaker?
Will the gentleman yield?
I'll yield.
Gentleman yields.
Mr. Speaker, I would ask the gentleman, would that not be a cultural use of an antique firearm?
I think absolutely it would be.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman may continue.
As I was saying, Mr. Speaker, I think that the goal of providing an opportunity for nonviolent felons to fully participate in their community is a laudable one. I think, and I've said for a long time, that we ought to remove barriers from nonviolent felons to feeling like full participants in their community. And I think that there's a lot of opportunities that we have beyond carrying black powder and beyond carrying antique firearms for nonviolent felons to fully participate in their civic process, in the workforce, in all kinds of ways that they can really make themselves more productive members of society and reintegrate. And I would hope that it'd be the pleasure of the body to go ahead and pass this bill and keep it in mind the next time we have a bill before us that talks about ways that we can encourage nonviolent felons to fully reintegrate, including restoring their voting rights, their civil rights, and other ways that they participate in civil society. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman from Frederick, Mr. Collins.
Speaking to the bill, Mr. Speaker.
It's going to pass, you know.
Well, I understand that, but then I will yield back to the floor. The gentleman was asking for some examples, and I have about a half a dozen clients. But if that's fine, I'll speak to him offline.
Now I hurt his feelings. Shall the bill pass? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 94, noes 4.
Ayes 94, noes 4. The bill is passed.